All right. Thank you for taking your time to join this podcast. I really appreciate you being here. This is going to kind of be a tough one for me because there's so much deception in the world. And it's easy to be deceived. It's easy to have a bias and it's easy to act on that bias. And it's very, very easy to be wrong. And I'll tell you, I've read a lot about Ian Carroll. I've read a lot of what people say about Ian Carroll. I see what people say about each other. And I feel like this is cause for serious introspection on what you believe or what you think you believe. Because let's face it, there's so much propaganda out there. There's so many psychological operations out there. And if you're not familiar with what a psychological operation is, the intent of a psychological operation is to influence perceptions and to manipulate and co-opt emotions. And unfortunately, we are designed, we were created, however you want to put it, however we came into being. I'm not trying to get into some religious thing, but we are built on this framework that makes it very, very easy to deceive us, to make it very, very easy to act out on a bias, to get an idea into your head, and then to carry that idea that could be wrong, it could be right, but it could be wrong through your entire life, thinking the whole time you were right when in actuality you were wrong. You look at things, you look at the world through the lenses that were painted by the psychological operators, and we're all to some extent psychological operators because we all want to influence somebody. I'm just going to use it as a foregone conclusion that you want to influence people for good. Well, that's a psychological operation. Talking to somebody with the intent of maybe making them joyful or making them laugh. It's a psychological operation. Not all psychological operations are bad. So, and you can, there's always a negative way to look at things, and there's always a positive way to look at things, and there's always a neutral way to look at things. And a lot of things, we choose what we want to look at negatively. We choose the things and the people we want to look at positively, and it's us making that choice. It's nobody else. But there's a bias that was put inside of us by psychological operators, whether they're good psychological operators or bad. So the intention of a psychological operations unit, which, by the way, if you go to goarmy.com, there's actually a psychological operations unit, which one of those units was headed by none other than Tulsi Gun Grabber Gabbard. Now, I want to talk about specifically the criticisms launched against Ian Carroll, just focusing solely on what was discussed in the Joe Rogan podcast. I want to discuss with you the red flags that I see and the possibility that the criticism could be wrong. It could be misguided. He could be a psychological operator for nefarious purposes and for the Jayish power elites, let's put it. But psychological operations intend to influence perceptions, emotions, and behaviors. And there's a target audience. And often it includes propaganda, misinformation, and manipulation. That's what psychological operations are all about. Now, is Ian Carroll a psychological operator? Is he intentionally trying to co-opt a narrative? Is he intentionally trying to go out there and give you misinformation? Or is he a dude on a journey like the rest of us, like he says that he is? It's like, I'm just a dude. I'm just a researcher. Yes, that could be. And he could be also he could be a person who's intentionally trying to misguide people and manipulate people and lay down a perception that he knows is false. Or he could be just a dude on a journey who's going to get it wrong sometimes. So I think it might be a good idea to maybe don the spirit of and the precept of do to others what you would want done to you. Now, I know people are probably going to come down hard on me and go, you should see, this is very clear. Don't you know that he supports Donald Trump? Don't you know that Joe Rogan supports Donald Trump? I don't think everybody who supports Donald Trump has nefarious purposes, because I think that humanity, we cannot lose our sense of hope. If you lose hope, if you have a society that is hopeless, you've basically doomed yourself. Do you want to get up tomorrow morning and not have hope? So I don't down people I hope Donald Trump does the right thing. I hope he gets rid of the Federal Reserve and institutes sound money. I hope that he's going to get rid of the domestic terror cell known as the IRS and the income tax. I hope that he stops being a Zionist and he exposes all this crazy stuff for what it really is and who's really controlling these things behind the board. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm extremely critical and skeptical, but I don't want to be such a cynic and such a black pillar that I don't have hope. Even if it's like, I'd be willing to admit that a lot of the hope that I have is basically a false hope. But sometimes, I mean, on a psychological scale, don't you kind of have to fib to yourself sometimes, just to make it through the next step? You know what I mean? Is there a value in doing that, in deceiving yourself just a little bit into thinking, no, you can do it when you probably can't, but it kind of pushes you through that next barrier, kind of like being on cardio and doing HIIT. That last 5 minutes, it's like, no, you can do it when your body's like, no, I really can't. And then you're kind of deceiving yourself, talking yourself through something that's really, really hard, but you want to bust through, you want to poke through that barrier. And then you make yourself you find yourself on the other side of it. So I want to talk about this because I have criticisms that I think are legitimate against Ian Carroll, and I voiced them on my Twitter feed. Number one, how can you not? And this is just a couple of them, okay? And then I'm going to get to what Ian Carroll said. He just got off of a live stream. I think he's doing something on InfoWars right now, which that's another red flag to me. But am I going to call him COINTELPRO? Is he in the back pocket of the Zio elites? Is he acting as a mouthpiece and an operator who's intentionally going out to deceive people? I don't know. I know where I think he's wrong, but then I could be wrong in saying that he's wrong. So this is what none of us is greater than all of us. We all have to eat humble pie. We have to self-reflect and go, you know what? It could be that I don't know as much as I think I do. It could be that I'm not as right as I think I am. That's a possibility. Always leave that open for a possibility. So my concerns about his appearance on Joe Rogan was that he didn't identify and call out, and I'm not saying he never does, but he didn't take the opportunity to call out to tens of millions of people that the major problem, one of the major, if not the major problem in the world, is the most powerful, dangerous, richest organization in the world, known as the Federal Reserve. When you and people are like, Brian, oh God, the Federal Reserve thing, oh God. When you co-opt a money supply of an entire nation, and especially when you make that currency the reserve currency of the world, you have all of the power in the world because you control the value of people's time and labor, and you can tweak that however you want to. You can make yourself even more and more rich and powerful. You can get people more and more by the balls. So that neither Joe Rogan nor Ian Carroll mentioned the Federal Reserve, and we got to do something about this insidious organization so we can stop the wars, so we can stop the military industrial complex, so we can stop the prison industrial complex dead in its tracks. There would be no funding for DEI. You know, the only reason we have these millions and billions and trillions of dollars out there diluting the money supply, the only reason we have congressmen and senators making $174,000 a year plus benefits, the only way we can cart around a president of the United States at $212,000 an hour every hour that the Air Force One is in the air, not counting Marine One, not counting keeping the beast afloat, not counting IRS agents and Secret Service agents. The massive amount, we cannot have that massive amount of waste of money doing all these wasteful things, starting ABC and intelligence agencies and other alphabet soup agencies like the Department of Homeland Security that didn't exist before 2002. The TSA shaking us down and feeling us up in airports all across the world. I mean, all across the United States. We can't have the CIA running drugs like they did in the Iran-Contra affair and selling drugs to Mexican drug cartels. We can't have any of that stuff unless you have the cheap, easy credit of the fiat currency Ponzi scheme coming out of the Federal Reserve. For somebody to minimize that, for somebody to not mention that and always have that on a table as the problem that we need to deal with, makes me think, what the frick is going on here? You had a chance and you blew it. You didn't even talk about it's not even an elephant. It's like two blue whales or sperm whales, whatever the biggest mammal is on the earth, sitting right there in your living room. And it's so ridiculous for you not to mention it. The second thing is, I kind of suspect that Ian Carroll, I don't know what he's talking about when he says, and I don't even know if he's going to deal with this because I only saw the first 3 minutes of it, and I wanted to watch it with you. The second thing is, I'll give you my top three. The second thing is, he really believes, for some reason, that Donald Trump is involved in a coup against Benjamin Netanyahu to put somebody else as the president of Israel. That's crazy to me. And I feel like he threw Whitney Webb under the bus when he said that he suggested that she was unhinged with her view about the techno oligarchy that's being set up. But he also explains that here. So let's listen to Ian Carroll, and you tell me. We'll stop, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong. If you think maybe you think I'm COINTELPRO, I don't know. We just need to take a look at this because truth matters.
7 C's. This guy's a classic troll, and this is an attack in a whole different direction. So let's address it. And he does have points. I'm not saying that he doesn't have points. He's an agitator on all fronts at all times. And I've never seen a post from him.
I don't know how you can discount somebody as just a troll. I think that is absolutely unfair. And maybe that's something that we need to steer away from, like calling somebody a libtard or a magatard or hey, the circus just left town. They're missing a clown. Why don't you go join them? I think maybe we should just stick with the facts, take the high ground, choose honor rather than prestige, notoriety. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of laughs. People are going to clap. You're going to get a lot of people viewing your content if you start becoming that agitator that he's just talking about. If you create controversy, you're going to generate clicks. But to what end? I mean, what if we take the honorable high ground? It's like, you know what? I don't know where this guy's coming from, but I strongly disagree with the fact that he voted for Ziodan.
Admittedly, I haven't really looked at all of his posts, but every post he's posted at me has been intensely negative and inflammatory, and you'll see, overtly assuming he knows everything about the whole world. And saying that he can take all of her work, repackaging it on TikTok, blow up while rubbing shoulders with all of her work, meaning Whitney Webb's work. I don't know if 7 C's doesn't understand how learning works, but if we had to force every single person to do every single dig from scratch, all on their own, and you're not allowed to read anyone's books or cite anyone as source.
By the way, this thing's freezing up on its own. It froze up on his end. This isn't me freezing it up. Let me just say this. I don't know. I follow 7 C's and he follows me. And I feel like 7 C's has a heart and a thirst for truth, just like I believe a lot of you guys do. Okay. Now, can we sharpen our sword? Can we hone our craft a little bit more? Can we become better people? Can we approach things with a little bit more dignified, honorable bent? Yeah, I think we can. We can always do better. But I don't understand what 7 C's is saying here. I don't understand the criticism. Takes all of her work talking about Whitney Webb, repackaging on TikTok, blow up while rubbing shoulders with. We all have knowledge based on somebody else's knowledge, and we all repackage things with our own personality in mind, with our own style, with the way we view the world. I don't know how that's a legitimate criticism. So 7 C's, if you're watching, let me know what I'm missing there.
How far do you think human knowledge would progress, bro? The whole God fucking damn it, camera. Every time that we give a thumbs up with the goddamn fucking. Okay, so let me switch my camera real quick and switch it back. Okay, business time.
Yeah, delete laws. He did endorse Donald Trump. A lot of people did, but the question is why? Did he do it because he's a CIA plant? Did he do it because he's controlled by Tel Aviv? Why did he do it? Why did he vote for Trump? I've never heard him on the issue, so I can't speculate on why he did. But what if we gave each other the benefit of the doubt? And I know that only goes so far, because if you keep giving people the benefit of the doubt, they start taking advantage of you, and then you start getting run over. So, skepticism is healthy. Skepticism is good. I just want to know why. I would love to sit down and talk with him about this. Why, after all that you know about Israel, after all you know about Netanyahu and the genocide going on in Gaza, and the the fact that he was bailed out by Rothschilds Inc., that he was for red flag gun confiscation laws, that he signed a $6.2 trillion stimulus package that effectively was the biggest power and wealth transfer in the entire world. How could you, and then Operation Warp Speed and father the VAXX. I mean, the list is endless. How, in light of that, I want to hear him on this issue. Maybe he's spoken. Maybe you guys know more than I do. That's why I'm doing this live stream right here. No doubt you guys know more than I do. And no doubt we collectively know more than each constituent part. So why did he vote for DJT when he's so against Israel and the war in Gaza and blowing Palestinians, to smithereens?
I need to not do thumbs up. I'll try my best. So yeah, if we aren't allowed to, why did Whitney Webb write a book, Seven Seas? The whole point of her writing this book is so that people like me can source it and cite it and give her credit for all the work that she's done. And basically the entire podcast was an advertisement for Whitney Webb's book, and it was an open.
And I really appreciate that, because when you can push, I don't know if you guys know who Whitney Webb is. And if you don't, subscribe to her or follow her on the X platform. She has done an exhaustive 2 volumes on the Epstein blackmail scheme. And it's called One Nation. The first book is One Nation Under Blackmail. You got to get that book. Check out how heavily sourced it is. Use your critical thinking. Find out if you can poke any holes in it. But that's definitely a great resource book to have on your shelf.
Open challenge for anyone to actually read this book and address these cited sources and debunk it, because no one's ever done that. And so I am really just a vessel for promoting Whitney Webb's work. And that brings me to the first correction that I want to make very clear. In context, in conversation, in a podcast, it is not easy to always say everything exactly how you would want.
That's true. I will probably I probably already have done some misspeaking in 16 minutes and 49 seconds. It's very easy to make mistakes. So maybe it would be good if we gave each other just a little bit of grace. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying abandon your critical thinking. I'm not saying, put the cognitive dissonance cement shoes back on your feet. I'm just saying maybe we should give each other the grace that we would want from somebody else if we misspoke, because we're human freaking beings, and we're going to misspeak. We're going to even say things that we didn't mean, or we're going to say things and not clarify it, and somebody else is going to take it a completely different way than they shouldn't have. So I agree with that too.
You're in a free-flowing conversational environment, and you only control half the conversation, and you're thinking on the fly and trying to keep narratives in your head. And so it's not always easy to speak with exact precision about what you mean. And a thing came up with Whitney Webb that I want to address really clearly, that I misspoke on the podcast when Joe Rogan was expressing how a lot of people feel about Whitney Webb's current body of research online. When people look at her current research that's forwards looking about techno-fascism and about the whole surveillance industrial complex and more, people like Peter Thiel and Palantir, which is awesome research that we're definitely going to be talking about a lot in the.
Which was another criticism that I had, that he omitted one of the most important financial backers of the entire Trump administration, namely J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, and that's Palantir Technology CEO Peter Thiel, who's intricately involved in mass surveillance under the umbrella of Israel. Now, what he's talking about with his comment, with regard to his comment with Whitney Webb, I'm going to give you the exact quote. I'm not going to play the thing because we're live, but I want to give you the exact quote. He said to Joe Rogan, quote, that's Whitney Webb, comes off as way more unhinged because now she's very smart. She's very smart and she's on it, but she's now very concerned, rightly so, about the sort of technocratic nature of what might be to come. So, and I read that's exactly what he said. That's exactly how he said it, because I didn't want to leave anything out. But he gave the impression that he thought she was unhinged. And now he's clarifying what he actually meant, which I appreciate. So listen to this.
Coming weeks and months. It's easy for people to get this conspiratorial vibe from her and not realize how cited she is and sourced she is and how high quality her research is. And so it's easy for them to just sort of feel a little overwhelmed by her current research and not take this for what it is. And I did not mean to say that she's like kooky or whatever. I forget the word exactly that I used. I think that unhinged is the word that got used. I do not mean to say that Whitney Webb is unhinged. What I meant to say is that she can appear unhinged to a first-time reader if they arrive at unlimitedhangout.com and don't have context. Whitney Webb.
Now, I don't know if he truly means what he's saying because I don't know this guy, but I'm just going to take him at his word. Okay. I'm going to take him at his word that he misspoke, and I'm going to use I'm going to use all the facts that I have at my disposal because he did use Joe Rogan's platform. He didn't hold up the book, but he did use Joe Rogan's platform to promote Whitney Webb's work, which is vital work. Some people, I really think that Joe Rogan should have 3 people on. I think he should have Whitney Webb on. I think he should have James Corbett on. And I think that he should have Larkin Rose on. He needs to have those 3 and David Icke. I might as well give David Icke a shot. If you're going to give Alex Jones a shot on your podcast, why don't you give David Icke a shot and have him clarify the reptiles and all that kind of stuff.
Is not unhinged. Whitney Webb is one of the best and most well-resourced and researched reporters.
Let me play this back because I interrupted at the wrong point here. Here's what his real outlook, or what he says his real outlook on what Whitney Webb is.
I meant to say is that she can appear unhinged to a first-time reader if they arrive at unlimitedhangout.com and don't have context. Whitney Webb is not unhinged. Whitney Webb is one of the best and most well-resourced and researched reporters there is today, and we all owe her a great debt of gratitude. And another point, I know that a whole bunch of people also contributed to those digs. A lot of other people contributed to this book, like Johnny Vedmore's, like I think that Ryan Dawson's research contributed to the knowledge base of this, but I don't understand the drama between Whitney and Ryan, and I don't intend to get involved. But there's lots of people that have done a lot of research about Epstein before I ever even thought about the world in the slightest context. I am a new person on the scene. And the reason why I cite Whitney Webb so much and reference her.
I mean, you got hats off to this guy. If you know anything about Whitney Webb, it seems to me, if you're controlled opposition, you don't promote Whitney Webb. And he incessantly talks about Whitney Webb. He used the biggest platform in the world that we know today to promote Whitney Webb. Hats off to this guy. Now, could that add to the layer of deception if he's COINTELPRO? Yeah, of course it could. But you gotta give points. You got to put points on the board where points are due. Put a 1 in the room if you agree with what I just said there. If you're calling out and supporting and holding up Whitney Webb's book as this is a book you need to get so you can have a better understanding of how the dark world of government actually works, put a 1 in the room. If you think I'm off base, put a 2, and maybe we can talk about it later.
The most is because I cannot cite a YouTube live stream as a source. I cannot cite Twitter posts. I cannot cite blog posts. In order to cite something of this complexity, you need a research book that is academic in nature, that has sources cited, that stands up to the scrutiny. Like JFK's book exposing Anthony Fauci, that is a work of art because you can cite it and it is sourced and there is no refute of it. And he's not under any lawsuits. It has not been debunked or disproven. So that's why I cite Whitney Webb specifically the most, although there's so many other people that have contributed and have done the digs. So to clear that up.
I really think that is a positive. Yeah, Ryan Dawson should be on there too.
And then he goes into the classic connecting people to people to people to people, with making a whole bunch of assumptions about who everybody is, and making it seem as though that implies that I must be some secret, evil, propped up PSYOP that was born in a laboratory. So let's quickly address this.
And you got to admit, it's so easy to go there, okay? Now, some people chalk this off as, oh, you're just jealous because Ian has become more popular than you and you've been at this for years. Well, that could be too. Jealousy and envy are very powerful emotions that do take over a lot of people a lot of times. But I don't know where to go with that. So when you make an accusation of the only reason you're criticizing Ian is because you're jealous of him. You're jealous of his popularity. You want to appear on the Joe Rogan show. That could be a fact. But how do you substantiate that? Accusation without substantiation is always the height of ignorance. If you can't prove what you're about to say, maybe you should think about not saying it.
rubs shoulders with Sergey Brin's billionaire transhumanist ex-wife. He's talking about Nicole Shanahan. She's an absolute fucking gangster, and I would go to bat for her. And her past is her past, and she is not a fan of those people. She is a super not fan of Sergey Brin, and her marriage to him helped turn her to our side and helped expose her to how evil some people in this world can be. She does have a daughter with the man, and she loves her daughter deeply. And that daughter is vaccine injured with autism, and that is what has brought her to our side. And anyone who has met Nicole Shanahan knows that she is an absolute fucking warrior, and she is totally legit. And if she is faking it, then she's faking it to her husband. She's faking it to all of her team. She's faking it to her friends, to her campaign. She's faking it to basically everyone that's ever interacted with her 24/7. Because she's one of the most genuine people that you will ever meet in politics. And I have super respect for her. I will go to bat for her. So that's a bullshit argument by a dude behind a screen that has never met her and is making a million assumptions. Same with Epstein associate RFK. I don't actually know.
Excuse me. I just swallowed my, I just breathed in my spit. Mind Muscle says that I'm assuming you're talking about Ian, is an algorithm pushed to shill who started out parroting her. That's Whitney's research on TikTok without citing her. Is that true that he didn't cite her? Because sometimes you can do a video and then cite underneath. I'm not sure how TikTok works on that. Porn stash plagiarist shill. Man, I'm not in agreement with that. I'm just not in agreement with that. Because when I had my High Impact Flicks channel and it was really rising in popularity, people were suspecting me of being COINTELPRO because I happened to have caught an algorithm. You know, since then I've had 5 channels removed and terminated from YouTube for medical misinformation. But you know, during that time, it's like frustrating. You can't prove to somebody you're not COINTELPRO. You can't prove to somebody that you're not a shill. You can't prove a negative. That's why it's so important when you're making an assertion or an accusation about somebody, you should have proof, because you would want that done to you. If you weren't, let's put it this way. If somebody claimed that you represented some unseen force of darkness and started dragging your name through the mud, and tens of thousands, millions of people started believing that you were a representative of said unseen darkness, you wouldn't want that done to you. So in the spirit of do to others what you would have done to you, if you're going to make an accusation, you know, I understand it's funny to talk about somebody with a porn stash, but really, I don't see how we gain any ground and advancement toward liberty, toward prosperity, toward understanding when we keep taking that low road, in my opinion. If you disagree, let me know.
Personally,
how did he get on Rogan then? I don't know. How do you think he got? I mean, Chaos. How do you think he got on? You don't get on Rogan unless you're on the ends. That could be true. That could be true. But I don't know. I don't know where to take that. All I can do is deal with what I know. And I've done this before too, Chaos Variant. I'm like, oh, okay, it's curtains for this guy. He's hosting Alex Jones. He's out of there. But I feel like, what if somebody's hosting Alex Jones and they actually have a good heart? What if they are just like you and me? What if they're actually wrong about some things and you're wrong about some things, and you happen to call him out because he's in the spotlight, he's on the Rogan show, or he got interviewed by Jesse Waters on Fox, or maybe he once was invited to the White House or something like that, and then they found out who he was and what he was all about, and then he never got an invite before. I just don't see how how it works in our favor to constantly make these accusations, but I could be wrong.
And I would hesitate to get to know him personally because he is someone that it is my job to criticize. And to a certain degree, it's my job to criticize Nicole Shanahan too. I just haven't found anything to criticize in her in any major way yet. Gets reposted by Mike Flynn a year ago. Wow, I got reposted by someone. Is friends with Justin Trudeau's half-brother, Kyle.
People have done that to me before. It's like, hey, this dude reposted you. Now I really question you. It's like, how can you help? 7 C's. I love you, man. I appreciate your work, but how can you condemn somebody for being posted by another person when you've got absolutely no control over that? I don't get that. I don't get it.
Kemper, yes, Kyle Kemper is an absolute gangster, and he is Justin Trudeau's estranged half brother, and he is vocally and outspokenly anti-Trudeau, and he is a presence online, and his history is no secret. He has a whole family, which I've met a couple of times, and he is a force of light and good in this world. And my views are not all his views. I don't agree with everything that Kyle thinks, but Kyle was an immense force in the RFK in the Kennedy campaign, driving the bus around the world. And if you actually meet these people in person, I think you would probably think the same. He's a funny, like kind of leftist leaning, like middle libertarian hippie bro. But I come from that world. I'm a originally leftist hippie bro, and I love Kyle to death. Who is,
I guess, is it possible to disagree with somebody and vehemently criticize their position and maintain a friendship? Like, for example, in families, what if you refuse to let your family be split apart because some are MAGA and some were pro Harris? Is it okay? But other than that, you guys get along fairly well, and you love and respect each other, and you take care of each other, and that guy, that family member has your six, and you have their back if they ever get in trouble. Do you think families should be split apart for politics? Because politics is inherently divisive. It's dehumanizing. It's demoralizing. It resonates. It brings the human experience down to the lowest possible denominator, to the point where it gets you to accept force and violence and brutality and theft and coercion in the name of the greater good. That's a bad place to be. And yes, I do think that, because they show themselves to be, that Alex Jones and Joe Rogan and Ian Carroll are statists, but who do you know that is not a statist? Now, they're different because they have massive platforms, and your Uncle Bob doesn't have any platform at all. He's a statist. He believes in the legitimacy of government and all that kind of stuff. But does that mean you can never have a relationship? If you can't have a relationship with a statist, then you can't have a relationship with anybody. And it's such a harsh criticism that you become isolated in society. And then how are you going to get through to anybody? How are you going to be able to enact your good faith, kind psychological operations in people so that you can paint their perspective with what you believe is truth and honor and goodness? I don't know, man. I'm just speaking out loud. You guys let me know what you think.
Friends with Epstein Klein and alleged child abuser, Tether co-founder Brock Pierce. I don't know shit about Brock's history, and I've never met him. I don't know if he's an Epstein client. I don't know anything about these allegations, and I don't really care at this point because it doesn't affect my life at all.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about those people that, there are relatives who are really bad people, and it's just better for you and better for them if you cut yourselves out of their life. I'm just talking about people who vehemently believe they've been hoodwinked and propagandized and indoctrinated into believing that the answer to the ills of this world are Kamala Harris. Likewise, and I have literally interviewed hundreds of Democrats, hundreds of pro-MAGA Republicans, and I believe that every one of them believes that Donald Trump is going to make America great again. And they will not hear that he was bailed out by Rothschilds in 1990. They don't believe it. They don't think you're telling them the truth. They think that Convid 1984 by George Orwell was a legitimate thing that Donald Trump saved us by shutting down the country from. There are people that are genuinely, deeply deceived by these people. And as a result, they genuinely believe, it's a misguided belief, but they genuinely believe that Donald Trump will save America and the world. On the other side, people genuinely believe. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't disingenuous people in all camps, but I think the people that I talk to seem to have come across as, no, we believe that Donald Trump is an existential threat to all, like Bernie said, Donald Trump is an existential threat to humanity. Bernie Sanders might believe that, but Bernie Sanders is on the ends. He's one of those guys who will tell you that we need to tax the rich, and he's out there evading whatever he can evade. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to evade. It's a good thing to try to keep 100% of everything you went out to earn. And it's a bad thing for somebody to try to take it, i.e. the government and the IRS. So you got people on both sides who are genuine and disingenuous. And I don't think it's a bad thing to believe, yeah, sucker is born at every minute. And Vincent, I will admit, I'm probably one of the biggest suckers because I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I want to believe that Ian Carroll has a good heart and he's got he's just on a journey like the rest of us. And I could be completely wrong, but I want to see how it's beneficial to any of us to just carte blanche say he's COINTELPRO, the Jays control him. If they didn't, then he'd be saying this kind of stuff. I've been unfair to plenty of people. And I think that sometimes with the measure I use, I wouldn't want to be judged by that same measure. So all this stuff right here is super humbling. And it's super overwhelming because there's so much information and disinformation and psychological operations and deception and darkness going on in the world. It's hard not to get swept away by it. Do you feel what I'm saying? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? If you do, put a 1 in the room. Let's continue with this.
Maybe someday we'll do the dig on it. Not really stressed. Doesn't affect me. Provide a myriad of excuses on behalf of the most Israel administration ever and do a tour of all the state funded. We'll get into that more in detail, probably with Alex and such. Avoid Peter Thiel and technocracy at every turn. No, actually, you just haven't seen all my content, although I do need to make more content about.
All right, I think he's skipping around here. Let me read what 7C's actually said. In saying that he can take all of Whitney Webb's work, repackage it on TikTok, blow up, while rubbing shoulders with Sergey Brin's billionaire transhumanist ex-wife and support. Could it be 7C's? Could it be that Sergey Brin's ex-wife has turned over a new leaf and has seen the error of her ways, and now she's vehemently opposed to that which she used to endorse? And supporting Epstein-associated RFK get reposted by Mike Flynn, which I don't even see how that has to do with anything, is friends with Justin Trudeau's half-brother, who is friends with Epstein client and alleged C abuser, and Tether co-founder Brock Pierce, provide a myriad of excuses on behalf of the most pro-Israeli administration ever. Now that I do have a problem with, and I would like to, I don't understand why Ian Carroll glossed over that, because that's something I have a huge problem with. How can you, after you give the impression that you're clued into how deep the darkness goes with regard to that nation in the Middle East, how can you, after having known that, with that knowledge in your head, push that button or pull that lever for a guy who's basically the embodiment of all that you see as false? That blows my mind, sir. I don't even see how you can possibly support. Let's pick one thing, okay? Let's pick one thing that a lot of people think is minor. Let's pick one thing from Donald Trump. He is pro red flag gun confiscation law. That means without charge, without trial, without due process of law. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump sat right next to Dianne Feinstein, saying to Mike Pence, I don't know, Mike, I like take the guns first, due process second. That is antithetical to liberty. In other words, you don't get due process, but we, the government, get to take your guns because we got an anonymous call that you might be a danger to yourself or others. If there was just that one thing, that's all I need to know to not only not endorse that candidate, but to call him out for the evil person that he actually is. Because what he's saying is, no, the U.S. government and state governments have the right to criminalize you if they get an anonymous call saying that you're a harm to others. And they can come in and violate your Fourth Amendment rights by breaking into your house because, public safety and all, and violate your Second Amendment rights by keeping you from keeping and bearing arms. Mike, I really appreciate it, man. I don't know about a 24-hour live stream, but I'm not saying that's off the table. So do you see what I'm saying? That's all I need to know, that I'm not endorsing, because Joe Biden's for that. Joe Biden was for red flag gun confiscation laws. Kamala Harris is for red flag gun confiscation laws. Tulsi Gabbard is for red flag gun confiscation laws. RFK is for red flag gun confiscation laws. Dan Eye Patch McCain Crenshaw, Dan Red Flag Law, TAPS Act Crenshaw is for gun confiscation laws. Ted Cruz is for red flag gun confiscation laws. And so is Donald Trump. That, you know what that tells me? That spells enemy of America. And I don't have to call anybody a clown or a magatard or a libtard. MSNBC is for red flag gun confiscation laws, and so is Faux News. So is News Nation. So all of mainstream media, fake stream, CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra media, they are all for red flag gun confiscation laws. And all of politics, all the politicians are for red flag gun confiscation laws, minus a couple like Thomas Massey and all them, Ron Paul. I don't know about Rand Paul, but Ron Paul would be against that. That's all I need to know to not only withdraw my support, but to expose them for the anti-American, anti-Second Amendment shills that they actually are. And whether they're shilling for anybody, they're promoting an ideology that is fundamentally anti-human when you're for red flag gun confiscation laws. And here's the kicker. That's not all that Trump is for. Trump is for things that are even more, well, on the same level of being nefarious and evil and dark. So I don't understand how an Ian Carroll, this really baffles me. How can he support a guy who's that dead set against American? And I know what the answer, I know what the response is. Brett, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Am I really? Do you think I'm making a mountain? Put a yes or a no in the room. If you think I'm making a mountain out of molehill, that it is one of the biggest deals in the world that somebody is for a gun confiscation law, no matter what you call it, and no matter for what reason. Gun laws are anti-human laws. Gun laws are anti you protecting your family laws. And it can all be done anonymously. This is such a huge deal, and people get sick of me talking about the Federal Reserve and gun confiscation laws and the trillions of dollars that Trump put us into debt, and being a pro Operation Warp Speed, and I'm the father of the VAXX, and they just brush me. Oh, that's just Brian. But sit him in a corner. He'll simmer down here in a little bit. To me, these are mind-blowingly huge issues that these people don't seem to have a problem with. And then I'm sitting here going, I can see why Seven Seas calls him a shill. Now he's using reasons I wouldn't use, because you don't have to pull out the whole arsenal. You can just write one thing down on a piece of paper, red flag gun confiscation laws, and that pretty much flushes every political parasite down the toilet, because it is a huge issue. They are your enemies. It might as well call it, hi, I'm your political enemy law. Hi, here's my red flag gun confiscation. I don't know, Mike. I like take the guns first, due process second. What is that all about? Come on, Ian. Come on.
About the technocracy. By no means have I completely avoided it. And let me just share this screen for a second. These are just some of my notes on some of.
I hope you're joking. I've never heard that. That's hilarious. Rights are a privilege. This is sarcasm, right?
This is one of Whitney's articles about it, where I broke it down and included all of these in a live broadcast and a live presentation. I do need to make a lot more short form videos.
Oh, that is a really good point. You know what? I thought about that when I was watching it, but I put it in the back of my head because there were other issues I was trying to digest. But Real Assistant, you're right. They pushed pharma by pushing you can see it on the screen. I'm not going to say that word because I'm on the YouTube platform. They literally push that as something that's legitimate. That's freaking amazing to me.
About this, but there is extensive work in my notes about technocracy, and I have made videos about it before, and I intend to make a lot more. And Whitney and the crew of people like the Derek Broses of this world that focus on that stuff are entirely right to do so, and I totally support that. I'm playing a lot of catch up, learning the history of how the world works, learning the history of how intelligence agencies work. I only have so much time in a day, and I only have so much time to post videos, and so I need to. Now my camera's dead.
So
Is this how we're rolling today?
He's having technical issues.
It's not. There's no conspiracy, guys. It's totally normal. Maybe we'll just go low quality stream for the day.
Okay, while he's having these technical issues, let me just pause it and address the olive tree ministry. As an anarchist, isn't supporting the Constitution, i.e., the Second Amendment, just supporting being ruled by government? You don't have the right to keep and bear arms because we have the Second Amendment. You don't have the right to be secure in your person's houses, papers, and effects, or the right to be silent, or the right to speak what you want to speak because we have a Second Amendment. They wrote down the Second Amendment because we have those rights. So it's in reverse. Just because I say that you should uphold the Second Amendment, I'm doing two things here. Number one, I'm realizing the reality of the issue. The reality is it's actually more than it's not so much as you have a right. It's more like nobody's got a right to keep you from keeping and bearing arms. It's kind of like the negative. Because if you're going to say I have rights, then you got to answer, where did rights come from? Nobody's got a right to steal your money. Nobody's got a right to damage your property and not, pay you for it. Nobody's got a right to threaten you. Nobody's got a right to break into your house. Nobody's got a right to trip you at the bus station. Nobody's got a right to do that. And you have, let's see, how can I put this? It's not that I support the Constitution. I support the spirit of what some of the Constitution says, because I am of the mind, and I genuinely believe this, and you correct me if I'm wrong. What Lysander Spooner said, whether the Constitution be one thing or the other, doesn't matter. But this much is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical, evil government as we have, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. It's like, why do we have the Constitution if we have all these gun laws? Like the National Firearms Act of the 1930s. The National Firearms Act says that you can't own a rapid fire rifle or handgun. You can't own an automatic firearm. Really? I'm not reading that in the Second Amendment. So the National Firearms Act is either the supreme law of the land or the Second Amendment is. What I like to do is two things: hold them accountable for what they say their oath to the Constitution is, based on a pure reading of it. Right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and yet they live their lives infringing on that. And the second thing is the spirit of the Second Amendment stands whether there's a Second Amendment or not. The spirit of the Fourth Amendment stands. You do have, nobody's got the right to keep you from feeling safe in your own house, in your own papers, in your own effects. That's either true or it isn't. And you know how we know it's true? Because if you ask yourself a question and you're of sound mind and nobody's indoctrinated you into believing something wild, like you don't have Stockholm syndrome, or you've been so propagandized that you think it's okay to be run over and robbed and ruled by King George. Everybody who's honest with themselves knows that they don't want their door kicked in at 3 o'clock in the morning while they're trying to sleep. You don't want somebody calling on you anonymously saying you're a danger to yourself and others when you're not. You don't want the police to take away your firearms. So if you don't want that done to you, then you don't do that to anybody else. And you definitely don't support and vote for somebody to do it on your behalf. Nobody's got the right to steal from you for any reason. Call it national security, call it the general welfare, like the preamble to the Constitution. I don't care what your excuse is. You don't have the right to rule and rob other people. There are a lot of things that I disagree with in the Constitution. Give me an example, Brian. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes. You know what the real reading of that is? Congress shall have the power to steal wealth from Americans. No, you don't. You don't have the right to do that. How do I know? Because you wouldn't want that done to you. If I came to your house and it's like, I'll just take 10% of everything you own. I'll just I tell you what, 5%. No, you don't get a half. You get 0%. How do we know it's wrong? Because it's self-evident. You know you don't want to be robbed. You don't want to be harmed. You don't want to be lied to. So you don't do that to other people, and you don't expect others to do it on your behalf. So yeah, I'm not pro Constitution. I say a lot of favorable things about the Constitution, like the Second Amendment, but that doesn't mean I think you have the right, because a bunch of old people wrote down, and young people. There were some young people in the Constitutional Convention, but 240 years ago, they wrote these things down on a piece of parchment, and that makes it so magically. No, that's not my belief. So let's get back to Ian Carroll. Thank you guys for being with me. I don't know how many people are in here. He's having technical difficulties. Still having technical difficulties. I press play here.
Yup, battery's out.
All right. Let me.
Away she goes, boys.
Here we go.
And girls. There's so many funny jokes I could make right now. Not gonna make them. It is what it is. Here's how we go. This is why I'm doing a stream with Alex Jones later, because solo with all this shit to deal with no prep time, I'm no pro at this, and getting in that pro studio and having that will be the bomb.
That can be a diffusing tactic as well, because he constantly says things like that. Hey, I'm not a pro. I'm not an expert. Oh, I forgot to put this on the screen. I'm not a pro. I'm not an expert. I haven't been doing this very long. I'm just a dude. He said that several times on the Rogan podcast. I'm just a dude. I just like to research. One of his thing is like follow the money and search for truth or something like that. Those are two good edicts. Those are two good principles to live by. Follow the money, key bono, who benefits, and seek the truth. Seek the truth while it may be found. Roll up your sleeves, because you're going to have to dig for the truth. It's not just laying on the ground. It's like if you want to search for gold, it's not just sitting on the, oh, look, a piece of gold. There's another piece. Look at all this gold blanketing the hillside. No, you got to dig for it. You got to do some research and find out where the gold veins might be. You got to pan for it. It's going to take you a long time. You got to go through a lot of silt to get there. Same thing with truth. If you want to get to the bottom of truth, unfortunately, in this reality that we're living in, truth is not easy to come by. Deception is, misinformation is, true information is not.
So let me make sure.
So yeah, I think Ian comes from a good place. I really hope he does, Melanie. He became famous really fast, and I'm sure he enjoys it. That said, I think he had to soften some of his views to get there. And you know what? Tailoring some of your views and working around the censorship algorithms, I view as wise, because what if you can get out your message without diluting your message, but working your way around the algorithms? I've often been accused of, just say it, Brian. You're too scared to say it, because if you say it, you're going to get cut off by YouTube. Yeah, I think it's unwise to say things that could get you cut off platforms when you could say it a different way. Your message goes right straight through. Everybody knows exactly what you're saying, but you work your way around the algorithm. Don't you think it's more wise to do that? You've not diluted your message, but you have tailored it in such a way you can package it for mass consumption and then lead people into deeper and deeper waters. You don't have to throw somebody into the entire pool and give them the whole load and just completely overwhelm them. Just give it one nugget of truth. You and I are just seed planters. The truth is the seeds, and we got our bags and we're just broadcasting the seeds. We're just broadcasting. That's all we can do. You can't make somebody believe. You can't make the seed germinate. You can't make the sun go out. You can't make the rain come down. You can't make that soil any more fertile than it already is. There's a time and a place for everything. And when the time comes for that idea to be accepted, and when somebody really grabs a hold of it in their time, watch out. But you can't do it. And calling somebody a clown and belittling them and demeaning them. And I'm not, God, please understand, because I know a lot of my friends call MAGA people MAGA-tards. You guys are still my friends. And I've done it too. I'm not guiltless. But maybe we should rethink our tactic. Maybe we should build relationships. Build relationships. Don't dilute your message. Be sensitive to where people are at that present time. You're in a place right now that you are not going to be in 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. You're in a different place now than you were 5 years ago. Think about what people could have said about you 5 years ago. And what if they demeaned and belittled and called you a clown and you're COINTELPRO? Nobody can believe it. And somebody used their platform to just completely slander you when all you did was just, maybe you said the wrong thing. Maybe you were on the wrong track, but your heart was in the right place. I mean, where is there room for letting people grow? I mean, one of my downfalls is a lot of times I lack, I don't know if I lack the ability, I lack the awareness of considering something from the perspective of added nuance. And I go, it's totally black or totally white on this. And life is a little bit more complex than that. Yeah, there are some black and white things. This is definitely fiat currency with no backing. That's black and white. We all know that. This is the problem. This is why we have a war in Gaza. This is why we can send $3.9 billion a year to Israel. This is why we can shell out $170 billion to Ukraine. This is why we can have all these stupid government programs that Doge is supposed to be looking into and exposing. This is the reason we have wars in the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex and the drug war. If we didn't have fiat currency, Ponzi scheme, petrodollar funny money, we would have a completely different, and I'm convinced, way more prosperous and honest society, because this is predicated on absolute lies and deception and BS. This is counterfeit currency, and the only reason it's got value is because the Federal Reserve says it has value. Give me control over a nation's money, and you can do what? I don't care who makes the laws. I control everything and everybody. This is what we should be talking about. And replacing this with a non-surveillance coin, something that's actually backed by something you have to actually work and plan to dig out of the ground, i.e. gold. That's the problem with this world. And if you're not going to talk about this, you're not talking about anything. You're on Rogan Jones. You sold out point blank. Yeah, I just don't agree with that. I don't agree.
Sure, you can see me. We're back. Cool. And my audio, I assume.
But it could be. You could be right. I just disagree at this moment in time. I disagree. My problem with Alex Jones is the same problem that I have with Owen Schroyer. It's the same problem that I have with Ian Carroll. And they're objective problems that I have. How can you support the Donald Trump presidency when they represent all that you say you're against on this side of the aisle?
Zoom is still good. I'm going to bring back up our Twitter rants. And
I hope he finishes this out.
Shill the Eric Prince Blackwater NSO phone. That was kind of an offhanded comment. I've done no research into the Eric Prince phone. Eric Prince is a polarizing figure because when he speaks, he's very informed and very intelligent, but he is from the military-industrial complex world. Just because someone is involved in war fighting does not mean that they're an evil person. And Eric Prince is a good example of someone that you have to do a lot of digging into to really get a full picture, because at first glance he seems evil, because Blackwater seemed pretty evil. But when you do more research about it, it doesn't seem quite as clear. And I don't mean to say that he's a good guy. I just don't know. And I haven't done any research into.
Maybe he doesn't know, but you got it. Come on, Eric Prince. Look at my last video. Eric Prince has 3 CEOs for his company. All of them have intricate ties with the IDF. Do you think it is coincidence that Palantir Technologies and the surveillance state coming out of Israel and 3 CEOs from the IDF, and we know Israel hates America because of what they did, just for one example, what they did with the USS Liberty. Do you think it's coincidental that Eric Prince from Blackwater, who was outed as doing horrible, horrible atrocities to Iraqi civilians and others, do you think Eric Prince could ever on any plane be considered a good dude after having done that? Can somebody repent of their evil deeds? I've never heard Eric Prince say, here's the evil that we've done. And I am so I was blinded by money and by power and by prestige. And I'm turning over another. Never heard Eric Prince say, I've never seen any documentation that Eric Prince called his own nonsense out. This right here makes me question the genuineness of him. That's crazy. Eric Prince is an easy one. Blackwater is an easy one. BlackRock is an easy one. Did you know BlackRock, with help of the Trump administration, has purchased 2 ports in the Panama Canal for $22.8 billion? $22.8 billion. And during the State of the Union address, Donald Trump said a company is going to purchase the Panama Canal. Well, he didn't mention that company is BlackRock. Yeah, the BlackRock. Are you going to tell me that Donald Trump is on our side just given that one little nugget of information? Come on. Seriously? I know it's so obvious, it's painful, but how are these guys missing it?
Those kinds of phones, and I'm not saying that I would buy one. That's irrelevant. That was an offhanded comment. To nowhere, waiting on Trump and Elon to do anything in the interest of people. Actually, I'm specifically not waiting on Trump and Elon to do shit. That's why I did what I did, and I'm saying what I'm saying, and I'm getting the conversation going. Change starts from the bottom up, 7Cs. And you can be down here starting fights among the people that are helping to expose all this, or you can continue to be a troll online and do your thing.
See, now he's assuming that 7Cs is trolling, but what if 7Cs has a completely different paradigm and perspective than he does? See, this is where we're all missing each other. It's like, I'm just using 7Cs and Ian Carroll as an example, but insert anybody, insert me, Alex Jones, insert Joe Rogan, insert whoever you might, Whitney Webb. There's this gap in between where we are freaking missing each other. And we are treating people who may not be our enemies as enemies. And we got to fill this gap right here because it's us versus them. And maybe it'd be a good idea to let down this barrier right here and go, hey, you know what? Okay, I got this. I got this problem with you, man. And you got to help me resolve this because it seems like it's clear to me. I could be missing something, but let's have a conversation. I think that Derek Bros and Ian Carroll had a pretty productive conversation, and I'm looking forward to more of a conversation. I hear from Eric Bros. He posted yesterday or the day before that they're planning on doing a live stream or a sit down interview at the end of March, which I'm looking forward to because I feel like Derek is one of those genuine guys. And I feel like Derek is not just genuine, but well-researched, and he has a lot of legitimate questions. Now, there have been some heated discussions between them where it seems like they were both reducing themselves to the ad hominem plane, which I just don't see that as constructive. Let me give you an example. I don't even remember exactly what I said, but I pissed off Clint Russell to the point where he was following me and then he stopped following me because I made a video about something he said and it escapes me right now, but he felt put out and him and Redheaded Libertarian felt like I should have contacted them first, and I didn't feel like I should have. But, looking back on it, I feel like Clint Russell, Redheaded Libertarian, Luke Rudowski, Ian Carroll, we should, if we're all genuine and honest, we should put the boxing gloves away and maybe take out the clipboards and start learning from each other and go, no, I disagree with you here. Trump is a dangerous individual. Now, what I have against Clint Russell, I think it's centered around Donald Trump and his ideology and who he actually backs. Because I can't for the life of me figure out why a libertarian who's supposed to be somewhat of a non-statist can vote for a guy who still calls himself the father of the VAXX and still says that he saved millions and millions of people by turning billions and billions of dollars over to the big pharma industrial complex. I don't get that. That seems like I don't know. And they also call out, even Clint Russell calls it the biggest power and wealth transfer. And I agree, which means it's the biggest fraudulent single signature scam outside of the creation of the Federal Reserve that I can think of. $6.2 trillion. It was supposed to be $2.2 trillion, but the Federal Reserve added a $4 trillion backstop in that. And when you look at the cumulative increase of national debt of 8.4 trillion, because that's what will be on the books is 8.4 trillion, you actually have to add 4 trillion to that. So on the books, and I'm not saying that there aren't black box and black records where there's more trillions of dollars that aren't accounted for, but on the books spending and on the books national debt, whatever you want to call it, is 12.4 trillion in 4 years. And Republicans in MAGA were dogging Obama for increasing the national debt 9 trillion in 8 years. That's wild to me. If you're increasing the national debt, you are devaluing the dollar. Prices are increasing and you're ripping off Americans. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. So I don't get what people don't get about this. So yeah, this thing with Trump and Elon, it sure looks like while he criticizes them, he's still being super supportive of them. And while a lot of his criticisms are legitimate on Donald Trump and Elon Musk, he still pulls the lever for Dawn. I don't get it.
Up to you.
I'm still going to reserve me calling him a shill for when I actually know that he's intending to deceive people. Okay. When you're a shill, you're being paid to get out a certain amount of information and misinformation and deceiving people.
Let's see if we can get to some good faith arguments here. Hodge twins have been posting all kinds of shit. Glenn Greenwald, total so much respect for Glenn.
Wait a second. What did the Hodge twins post? Oops.
We can get to some good faith arguments here.
And that's what I think we should have, is a good faith argument.
Hodge twins have been posting all kinds of.
Let's see what they posted. Ian Carroll show used to drive Uber Eats. Now he used to drive Uber Eats. Now he's the most viral conspiracy dude on the internet. If you're on social media and into this type of subject matter, you've probably seen one of Ian's videos before. We brought him on the podcast, and this dude knows so much, I think.
The shit. Glenn Greenwald, total so much respect for Glenn. Appreciate all of his takes that I've seen.
7 C's, if you're out there, give me your take on what you think about what Ian Carroll said in his reaction to your post.
This is an extremely common behavior on the pro-Israel right. They scream racist and bigot and use the victim narratives to justify censorship as much as any caricature of a leftist college student ever has, only when it applies to Israel. Jeremy made a movie profiting and mocking people on the left for calling everyone racist they disagree with, and then continues to call everyone anti-Semite who criticizes the Israeli government. Funny how that works. It's almost like the exact tactics that I described in the Joe Rogan interview that was so controversial.
Oh, wait, here's Just a Thought. I love Just a Thought. Okay. Have not seen this. There is nothing anyone could say that would make me believe that these men act on their own volition and aren't compromised, controlled, and paid by the very people they're claiming to expose.
Just a Thought. God, I love her. She's always on this train of everyone is controlled opposition. Everyone must be controlled opposition. My impression of Joe is that Joe is not controlled opposition at all. And I could be wrong, but Joe is a dad and a comedian. And I went on his podcast and then...
God, this is so... Guys, this is so freaking interesting to me. We're an hour and 6 minutes into this live stream. I've seen none of this right here. I'm interested in giving you an honest gut reaction. Put a 1 in the room if you want me to continue on with this. If I get, I don't even know how many people are in the room. If I get 50 ones, then I'll stay in. How many people are even actually watching this on YouTube? Let me see. I don't even know. Let me just take a quick break and look at something here. I don't ever get very many people watching. Adam Green's got 1,600. I've got 555. Ethan Ralph's got 666. Scott Horton, Clint Russell's got 2,500. Ian Carroll opens the floodgates, dangerous RTRDs. And on YouTube, it's how many people are watching? Probably 50, 238. It's so pitiful. So if there's 51s in the room, I don't know what 0 means. 1 means, yeah, keep going. 0 mean, oh, I guess we can make 0 mean don't keep going. This is so freaking fascinating to me because I want to grow. I want to grow, whether there's spirituality or whatever. I want to grow spiritually in a positive way. I want to have a positive influence on whatever zone of influence I get in life. Okay. I'm going to be dead soon. You're going to be dead soon. And by soon, I mean, you might have 60 years to live. That is nothing in the span of existence. We're going to be dead. Do you want to die with a pocket full of money, or do you want to die with honor? And does it matter? I tend to think that it matters if you die with honor, if you die with goodwill, if you die with a good heart that really just sought to understand what was going on and make this world a better place. Because there is bad and there is good. What do you want to add to? I just don't see how. I get why people get emotional and call somebody a clown or a knucklehead, just whatever, fill in the blank. There's so many euphemisms that you can use out there. You're COINTELPRO, and I get it. That's easy to say. It's easy to say, but what if the guy that you labeled as controlled opposition is just in a journey where he's making a ton of mistakes, but he's not afraid to speak out. So he's going to speak out whether he makes mistakes or not, and then he's going to correct it along the way. Maybe it's being maybe I'm too simple-minded. So did we even get 51s? Yeah, like I said, there are some ones. Yeah, put a 1 in the room if you want me to continue on. This is so freaking psychologically fascinating to me that I kind of just want to go on. Let's see. Let's see what you guys are saying. Fame, I'm going to live forever. We're immortal beings experiencing temporal simulation, in my opinion. That's an interesting idea. There's so many things that we don't know. There are more things that we don't know than the things that we do. And the things that we think we don't know, we probably really just don't know. Where there's a shekel, there's a shill. I've had people condemn me because I use Federal Reserve notes to pay the light bill. It's like, God, I used to be involved in that purist game, man. And maybe to some extent I still am. I'm trying to cleanse myself of it. But there's no matter how pure you are, there's somebody more pure. It's like being in the gym. It's like, you feel, oh, I'm the strongest man in the world. There's always somebody stronger. There's always somebody smarter. There's always somebody richer. Be content with you where you are. Look into your heart and make sure you're a good person. Who cares about what everybody else is doing? And then try to make your mark for truth and honesty and goodness and all that is right and all that is virtuous. So here we go.
He invited me to the comedy club, and I got to watch him in the podcast studio and then in the comedy environment where he did 2 different shows, one improvising and one a little more prepared. And it was so fucking funny and also really cool to see and remember that this guy is just one of he's one of the foremost comedians of our generation. And his art, his love, his passion was originally comedy.
I've seen a couple of Joe Rogan say, it's just an opinion, but I don't really think he's that funny.
And he is a comedian. He's not a journalist, and that's not his job. And he has kids and a wife and a family and a life. And certainly he's been insanely successful. But it's not your job to tell him how to live his life and tell him how to spend his money and to tell him what he does and doesn't have to publish. If he doesn't want all the fucking heat of publishing Israel shit, well, he will get attacked, canceled, demonetized, his kids threatened, whatever the fuck.
See, I love Just a Thought and some of the other people that really push back. And some of us are more extreme and we push a little further. Some people don't push as much. Some people don't push at all and they just get steamrolled over. So I know it's not possible to do because this guy is hyper popular, but it would be really good to be on a call in with him, with eGalv, which is Just a Thought, and a couple of other people, and see if we can come to some kind of resolution or at least an understanding.
Might happen. It's not his job to have to do that. And it's perfectly okay if Joe chose to never platform this kind of stuff. And Joe didn't explicitly do this to platform this stuff. Joe is just a dude having conversations. And we had a super fun conversation. Alex is a better example, and I'll be going on his show later. If Alex was controlled opposition, he would be faking it to all of his staff that he works with all day, every day. And they would be faking it to me and their families, who are also faking it to me. And Alex would be faking it to me. He'd be faking it to everyone this would be like a 24/7 constant fake life.
Now, here's my problem with Alex Jones. He backed off of the SH thing. He handled the thing horribly. And it looked to me like it was a concerted effort on both parts, both the prosecution and the defense, and Alex Jones was the defense, to get critical thinking to be penalized broad brush. Because all Alex Jones did with regard to SH, you know what I'm talking about, that place in Connecticut, was give his opinion. Oh, it looks like. He even made assertions. So that's fake. Those are actors and whatever. That's just his opinion. And all he had to do was stick to that, in my opinion. Okay. I think the best road to go, if you want to maintain integrity, if you have integrity, it just seems like this is the only road to take. You would just sit there and go, prove where I was wrong. I made this assertion, prove where I was wrong. Because I've got the video evidence. Why were they circling around that building? Why was Gene Rosen acting the way he does? Does it seem logical to you? Does it seem consistent with what you know about the human experience? What Robbie Parker did right before he knew the cameras were rolling? That's just the tip of the iceberg, guys. So, as in my opinion, now I can't prove that he was bought and paid for and he was given money to do this, but I don't like the fact that he sold out, that he backed away from his position. He said on Joe Rogan, oh, it was a psychosomatic episode I was going through. I was just having mental problems. You're really going to do that. You're really going to go there. You're really going to step on the people who saw what you were saying and arrived at the same conclusion through their research. And all the people who went down there to interview these people and all the crazy, weird stuff that the counterfeit news network, CNN, was trying to pull off, the deception that they were involved in. You're really going to back off of that. Seriously? So what I saw that as is a projection campaign of, we're not just going to do this to you. Anybody who thinks that they can question the official narrative, the official story, is going to receive a like penalty. And then that gets people to back off and go, well, I don't want them to Alex Jones me. So I think Alex Jones did a great disservice. And I don't know if Ian Carroll has ever called this out, but I'm not going to call somebody a shill. Hey, you're in the back pocket of something. But I will say on the front end, the objective thing we need to deal with, Alex, is that you said this right here. And when I confronted Alex Jones face to face on that street corner in Virginia during that gun rally, I said, dude, how can you support Donald Trump when he's for red flag laws? How can you support Donald Trump when he called for quantitative easing, which is money printing, money dilution? Basically, you're saying, hey, I'm going to support a guy who said that we're going to devalue your time and your labor by getting with the Federal Reserve and doing their bidding. He goes, I know those are the kinds of things that make me question. Well, it didn't make you question enough to withdraw your support. And you know dang well that if Barack Obama did the exact same things that Donald Trump did, he'd be calling out Barack Obama for it, but he didn't substantially call Donald Trump out for it. Do you remember the fit, rightly so, the fit that Alex Jones threw in his studio, got up from his chair, started throwing things when Donald Trump launched those 58 Tomahawk missiles on the Syrian air base? He's like everybody else. God, I've been deceived again by these people, hoodwinked. And yet he goes right back and promotes the guy again. That's what I got a problem with. Now, do I know that he's bought and paid for, that he's COINTELPRO, that these people have an agenda and they've written a script out for him and he sprinkles that script into the other things that he's saying? No, I don't know that, but you don't have to. You don't have to name call. You don't have to call somebody controlled opposition. You can say, hey, Alex Jones was hypocritical and inconsistent on this. Don't you think that's safer? And don't you think that's enough? Do you really think the world needs you to call Alex Jones COINTELPRO or a clown? Isn't it enough to say he is objectively, demonstrably being a hypocrite here? Because for years after 2012, after December 2012, when that SH thing happened in Connecticut, he stuck by his guns. And then he got sued. And then he completely changed. I don't know. I was thinking I was just going through a psychological, it's just a mental thing. So I'm going to go and back off now. Of course, I believe it happened exactly the way you say. So basically, he gave in to the, it was the official story. It was the official story. You really had to go there? You really had to do that? It wouldn't have been better to stick with the high ground and go, hey, hold on a second. I got questions. Why did this happen at the following Super Bowl after the thing? Why are all these people here that look like the people that were in that situation right there? Why are these people acting this particular way? And let's bring up H. Wayne Carver. Let's talk about his history and his attitude and his actions on the days following that. This doesn't make sense. Does that make sense to you? If it does, can you explain it to us? That's all he had to do. But no, he easily caved and said, okay, the official story is exactly the way it happened. You're going to cave about the 9/11, 9/11 official story too? What else are you going to cave to? So you talk about reducing your credibility. That's what I got a problem with. And that's all you have to objectively point to. You don't have to like put him up there as a, clown face. And I've done it. I've made the AI generated memes where he's a freaking clown. All you got to do, your words are powerful, man. And when they go out into the ether, you can't take them back. Either that or you just apologize for him. But he did a great disservice, and in my opinion, great evil by backing the very guy that's supporting the very things that he says he has a problem with, that is inconsistent, that is hypocritical, and it makes me question whose side he's on. Period. And that's all you got to say. Doesn't seem trustworthy when you get involved with characters like that. And then that right there doesn't cut me off of having a conversation with anybody, because everybody can see, oh, they can verify it for themselves. You don't have to take my word for it that Alex Jones is a clown. All you have to do is say, oh, yeah, Alex Jones did say this, and he did act like this when they lobbed those 58 Tomahawk missiles onto the Syrian air base. And he did say this about SH in Connecticut so long. And he did actually basically give fake stream media a carte blanche pass to shove whatever official story down our throats that he wants. That is bad for humanity. And that leads me to believe, whether he's paid for or not, he was way out of bounds on that. And so I can see why people would call you a clown. Here's why people call you a clown. I don't have to call you a clown. Here's why people do, though. Don't you see inconsistency and hypocrisy as clownish behavior? Wouldn't you see inconsistency and hypocrisy in a Democrat who's trying to throw a Green New Deal pork barrel spending packet into that omnibus bill? Wouldn't you see that as clownish, hypocritical, wasteful, evil behavior? Well, this is how I see your behavior. Now it's incumbent on you to explain and try to get yourself out of it. There you go. Good faith all the way. Didn't demean myself or anybody else by engaging in some frivolous ad hominem attack. And now your words are powerful. And now you've taken the honorable road. You know why? Because you're an honorable person. You don't even have to think about it. That's the boat you're going to get in. If I'm going to boat across the moat, I'm going to be honorable in doing so. And the only oar that I need to paddle myself on the other side of the moat is the oar of truth. That's it. And then let the chips fall where they may. Let the truth do all the work for you. Maybe let your words be few and powerful. How about that? Okay, here, let's get back to this. So he's got Russell Brand on the screen with Joe Rogan and Alex Jones and himself. And see what he says.
Which is possible, but let's be real. That's not what's going on here. Alex has been telling the truth about this stuff since before most of us were born, probably since when Just a Thought was a tiny little girl. And Alex has been dealing with billions of dollars worth of lawsuits. He's been exposing Epstein and 9/11 and all sorts of things.
That everything he just said obscures the facts. It just obscures. Now, Just a Thought has a reason by saying that they're compromised and controlled and paid. She has reasons. And what are those reasons? I don't care how long Alex Jones has been doing. I don't care how much money he's made. I don't care how many lawsuits. The question is he steadfastly sticking to the truth and not backing away from it?
For decades now. And it's not his job to take on all the heat forever. And when he is looking at this multi-billion-dollar lawsuit around Sandy Hook that they're specifically using to try to silence him, it's completely understandable that he's not going to make his entire platform targeting Israel right now, which is going to just bring even more monstrous heat. We saw what they tried to do to Elon Musk when he bought Twitter, and they tried to destroy that.
I don't think that's an honest assessment. And honestly, I think it's so easy to poke holes in what he just said, because basically he's making excuses about many things that are inexcusable as far as what Alex Jones has said and the information he's putting out there, and the idea that backing off of the truth is the answer, and caving in and saying something is real when for years he said wasn't real, and he believed at the time he had proof for questioning the validity of the official story. Now he's just going to throw the towel in. I don't see how that's beneficial to anybody, honestly.
And this is Alex. Like, let's be real now. But then, when this interview came out, Alex Jones leapt at the opportunity to expose that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad and he was working for Israel. And he specifically is having me on today to lay out the evidence of that argument.
But did you notice that there's somebody that they just don't talk about? Now they could, and I don't have all knowledge, but let me ask you guys, has there been any point at which Ian Carroll or Alex Jones or Joe Rogan has mentioned all the positive things that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, including he's a terrific guy. I've known him for 15 years. That the New York Times article. Was it New York Times or New York Magazine? It was something like that. He said, Jeffrey Epstein's a terrific guy. Known him for 15 years. He likes his girls kind of on the younger side. You know, it just seems like, and then through Alex Acosta at him when he got in trouble in the early 2000s, giving him basically a tap on the wrist when everybody knew what Mossad agent Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. Why aren't they linking the Trump factor in with that? That's just a question. And maybe they have. I haven't seen it. Have you guys seen that? Have they linked the tight-knit, close relationship that Donald Trump had with Jeffrey Epstein? Because I see a lot of pictures of Jeffrey Epstein laughing it up with Bill and Hillary Clinton and some other people, including Ghislaine Maxwell. But where's the link? Where's the link on the Trump side with Trump and Epstein? I mean, they're all on board with how linked up he is with the Democrats. How about with Team Trump? Haven't seen it.
And so call them controlled opposition all you want. Call us all controlled opposition all you want. All you're doing is COINTELPRO for the other team, whether you know it or not, and you're just dividing the movement. The facts are the facts, and we're presenting them. And if you have a problem with us talking about the facts, then address the facts and present a better argument.
I agree with that.
If it's controlled opposition to tell the true story of Epstein, then I don't know what the fuck the real team is doing.
No. See, I think that's obfuscation right there. I don't think that's what eGalv is saying here. I don't think that's what Just a Thought is saying here. And I think that Ian has read enough of what Just a Thought has said to actually articulate this a little bit better. I don't think Ian's stupid. I think he's very smart. I think he's able to absorb a lot of knowledge and to convey that knowledge in a very condensed manner, including Whitney Webb stuff. But I don't think that it doesn't seem like he's unaware of what's going on here. It almost seems like, I don't know, can't prove it, that he's evading. He's just taken one thing that eGalv said instead of using specifics that eGalv has also said throughout the years to back her assertion that she believes it's control opposition. So this is interesting.
Peyton, appreciate the hype. Glenn Greenwald again. These people are criminalizing protests against Israel on U.S. campuses with prison and deportation. But now they see Candace Owens with a far larger audience than they. Theo Vaughn questioning Israel and Ian Carroll show on Rogan. The more you censor, the more people ask why.
Yeah, but who's these people, Glenn? Who's these people criminalizing protests against Israel and U.S. campuses with prison and deportation? Who's doing that? Donald Trump is doing that. The Trump administration is doing that, calling them illegal protests. We know what that means, guys, based on what Donald Trump has said in the past. He wants to criminalize people who are protesting Israel. He wants to criminalize people who are pro-Palestine, calling them Hamas and deporting people and expelling Americans. That's what's going on. Why doesn't Glenn Greenwald just say it? Why doesn't Ian Carroll just say it? And if you know it and you don't say it, it makes you question why you're not saying it. And if you know it and you support it by supporting Ziodan, why did you do it? Why?
He's referring to this Jeremy Boring post.
This whole thing what he just said right there did not sit well with me at all. While I agree that he has some salient points that should probably be considered so we can have better conversations and open dialogue and down with the ad hominem, that right there seemed to me to be an evasion. Let me know what you guys think about it.
Today was a terrible day for American Jews. The embrace by so many prominent voices of demented, conspiratorial, anti-Jewish voices is one of the saddest, most alarming events in my lifetime. First off, demented, character attacks much, conspiratorial, fuck yeah, dude, you're damn straight. Anti-Jewish, I've explicitly said a lot of pro-Jewish things all throughout that podcast. I said that I'm not talking about all Jews. Jews are regular people. They're good people. I love Jewish people. I have no problem with that. I've purposely denounced the Jew hatred that is just hatred of all Jews because that's not what I believe. And I'm not just saying this to say this. This is genuinely what I believe. And so this is clearly a smear that is completely divorced from what I actually said on the podcast. And it's ironic that he doesn't realize that on the internet, we can see everything. And it's not 1990 anymore, Jeremy. You're clearly just publishing propaganda here. This way lies madness, and worse than madness. Do not let the times cost you your soul.
By the way, I don't want to assume you guys know who Jeremy Boring is. The reason it's important to read this post right here is because Jeremy Boring is the CEO of the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is Matt Walsh, it's Jordan Peterson, it's Ben Shapiro. So you've got Michael Knowles. So this is why it's important for him to be going. It's interesting that he's bantering back and forth against Jeremy Boring. That's interesting to me as well.
Ironic. Audience capture and unchecked tribalism. Tribalism? Do you want to talk about a tribe? Should we talk about a tribe?
Daily Wire.
Which tribe in our world is most nationalistic and tribalist and grouped together conglomerate of defend us all at all costs, no matter the crime?
Anybody know the answer to that? Very good point. And this right here makes me think, okay, he's either really got it, he's getting it, or there's something I'm not understanding. That is such a freaking good point. Talk about putting Jeremy Boring in his place with just a few sentences.
You're forced to defend Jeffrey Epstein and pretend that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't working for Israel and try to sweep that under the rug and obfuscate the truth. That feels pretty fucking tribal to me.
Yeah, but then, okay, guys, think about the depth of this, okay? If it's true that Jeffrey Epstein was working for that country in the Middle East, if it's true that he was a Zio shill, if it's true that he was a worker and an agent for Mossad, trying to develop a honeypot on American soil to get American politicians into a blackmail situation, for what reason? If it's true that AIPAC owns so many congressmen and senators, they might as well own the entire Capitol building and Washington's District of Criminals. And most of the 12,000, look it up. How many, just ask Google, how many lobbyists run Washington, D.C.? Over 12,000. That's 25 times more than the congressmen and senators who say they represent you. So if it's true, if Ian believes what he's saying about Jeffrey Epstein and who actually holds him by the you know what and is dangling him from marionette strings, then how in the hell could you ever vote for Donald Trump, who is for that country, who owned Jeffrey Epstein, who did all this stuff so that they can invade and take over the financial system and the political system of the United States? You can clip this and send this to Ian Carroll. Ian, I'm not calling you a shill, but that kind of thing that you would bring this right here to light as the truth and the facts, and at the same time pull the lever for a guy who supports the very thing that you say you're against. That is mind-blowing to me.
I have no problem calling out Americans that do shitty things. I have no problem calling out white people that do shitty things. I do it all the time. Not sure what this tribalism is. Audience capture, even if they really are out to get you. Heck, even a righteous cause can lead us to evil if we don't guard our hearts in the quest. I could not agree more, Jeremy. Even a righteous cause can lead us to evil if we don't guard our hearts in the quest, such as trafficking children in order to get blackmail on behalf of a corrupt foreign government, the deep state of that government, not the religion, not the Jewish people, the government.
Corrupt foreign government. The corrupt foreign government has co-opted the American corrupt form of government. So if the problem is this corrupt foreign government and this corrupt foreign government, maybe it's a good idea that we do something different than a federalized government. The very least, like if you guys want to keep a government and remain in kind of a statist situation, then the very least, I think we can all agree that we need to get rid of the centralized federal government and then have 50 different state governments so that they can all compete for economic prosperity and for populations to, come and dump their money in their state, offer more freedom, less restrictions. You want to see peace and prosperity flourish, then you dissolve the wasteful, fraudulent federal government, corrupt federal government. You just disband it. There will be no more federal government. It's all going to be 10th Amendment relegated to the states. There will be no federal bureaucracy. There will be no federal oligarchy. There will be no technocracy. And then if you don't experience the freedom you want, say in Minnesota, then you can go to north to Alaska, or you can go south to Oklahoma or Arkansas, or you can go east to North Carolina, or you can go west to Arizona. But what's going to happen is Arizona is going to be like, wow, maybe we should be less restrictive. Maybe we shouldn't be charging property tax. Oklahoma's not doing that. Texas isn't doing that. Maybe we should compete. And then you'd have more of a free market. I'm not saying that statism is ever a good thing, but if statism is bad, then centralized, overarching umbrella statism is even worse. So at the very least, we should dissolve the federal government, break it up to 50 different governments that operate and cooperate on their own. Like there will be no borders. Like there won't be a checkpoint in between Arkansas and Oklahoma, or Oklahoma and Missouri, or Oklahoma and Texas. There won't be some kind of barrier between Arizona and California. So there'd be an understanding that, hey, we're doing free trade and we're going to incentivize people to come here, and we are not going to incentivize illegals to come across the border by giving them cell phones and free room and board and meal tickets. See, the problem is the government. If we have a border problem, if we have an immigration problem, guess who that border problem and immigration problem was caused by? It was caused by the government, who now is stepping in under a Biden administration or a Trump administration going, I'm going to save you from the illegals. Oh, you mean the illegals that you incentivize to come here through your wasteful, fraudulent spending? Those illegals? So now what the government specializes in, I don't care if you're talking about the Israeli government, I don't care if you're talking about the Saudi government, the Australian government, the American government, what you get them specializing in is the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem. Hey, let's incentivize the illegals, let them overtake and let them cause a whole bunch of problems. Wait for the fear-based reaction. Oh my God, they're taking our jobs, or whatever. They're threatening Lake and Riley, or whatever you want to say, and then step in to provide the pre-planned solution. I got it. We need more funding for the border wall. We need more funding to staff ICE. And so we can beef up the intelligence agencies and increase the surveillance apparatus and have a biometric visa entry exit tracking system. We'll have it on sea. We'll have it on land. We'll have it in air. And then now you've got the state apparatus consolidating power because they created a situation that made you and I fearful to the point where we called out to our captors who are oppressing us to save us from the oppression that they just brought into our lives. And thus, the full circle of the Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction. Oh, government is the solution to the problem we just created. See, if government is the answer, in my opinion, you're asking the wrong question. And so I've got a big problem with Ian, or anybody like Ian, coming up with the truth of the state of Israel, HE double hockey sticks, and owning certain people to set up a honeypot to co-opt the financial and political systems on behalf of a foreign government, but then voting for the guy who's going to make sure that that all happens. In Trump's 40, how many days are we into Trump's presidency right now? 40 something? In 42 days or 43 days, he's already given, on top of that fraction of payments that we give Israel from the $3.9 billion we give them every year, he's given them military equipment and cash installments to the tune of almost $5 billion. So I know some people say 12 to 16 billion, but I haven't seen any substantiation for that. But in 40 something days, he's already given Israel $5 billion. We can't afford to give, number one, we can't afford to give Israel $5 billion or $1 billion or even $1 because we're so deep in debt and beholden to that country. Number two, we're helping them to further initiate and prolong a literal made-for-TV genocide in Gaza, while Donald Trump wants to set up the Riviera of the Middle East. And Carroll says, I don't know if I should give this away, but I think Donald Trump is setting up a coup against Bibi Netanyahu. What the frick? Where are you getting this? What? That's the stuff that makes me sit there and scratch my head and go, God, I don't know about this guy, man.
Israel. Yeah, that would be quite an evil thing to champion on your quest for your righteous cause. The wicked often prosper, and the temptation to prosper often tempts us to join them.
Oh my God.
Boy, is there going to be a story breaking about the wicked prospering in the next couple of weeks. But only God offers the richness of salvation, and he already became for us the only Jewish scapegoat for our sin and fear.
God, religion and politics is so strong with these people.
Leave the rest of them alone. Sorry, bud, when a Jewish person is organizing the largest sex trafficking ring ever known to human history, I'm not going to leave him alone just because he's Jewish. Doesn't matter what religion you are. If you're trafficking kids, I'm not going to leave you alone. And neither should you, Jeremy, as a conservative voice prominent in the conservative movement that is dedicated to protecting children. You should want to get to the bottom of this question just as much as everyone else.
I love the fact that this guy keeps promoting Whitney Webb's book. Awesome. I hope book sales go through the roof for Whitney on this.
Or more, because you have a responsibility as a person in the media to tell the truth. So, but I want to be clear, just because he's getting ratioed in the comments by all these other anti-Israel voices, I thought I just saw Nick Fuentes in there too, does not mean that I agree with all of those other anti-Israel voices, okay? I am myself, speaking for myself. I am not Sam Parker. I am not Jake Shields. I am not Nick Fuentes. Their opinions are their own. They speak for themselves. I speak for myself. And Jeremy speaks for himself, as well as for the Daily Wire. Bruce Stanley, you thought you'd already died of cringe, yet here you are watching Joe Rogan and Ian Carroll casually dismissing David Icke as a grifter. Yes, let's talk about David Icke for just a second.
I'm so glad he's addressing this.
David, I did not mean to come across as saying that I was calling you a grifter. I'm sorry about that.
Joe Rogan did come across as that.
That came up, and I don't actually think that Joe Rogan intended to say that you were a grifter either. I think that Joe Rogan we were talking about you and about how we kind of love your position in this industry and admire you and respect your time under the game. And then the conversation transitioned to, we don't necessarily agree with you though. And then Joe Rogan brought up the grift concept. And I think that he was talking about, like, in the industry at large, the potential for grift is there. And I don't think that he was necessarily calling you a grifter, but I want to speak for myself.
Yeah, 3-chord grifter. He dealt with that at the beginning of this live stream. If you want to take a look at it, he does address and apologize for giving the impression that he thought that Whitney Webb was unhinged. He's basically saying she comes across to others as unhinged, and she shouldn't be discounted because she's concerned about a future technocratic takeover. Hope that explained that.
That I do not think that you are a grifter, David Icke, and I am sorry that it came across that way on the podcast. That was not my intention. My intention is not to say that you're a grifter. My intention is to say that I don't agree with your conclusions, although I also don't understand them fully because they're extremely researched over a long time that I would need to spend my lifetime catching up on. And I intend to do that because as I spend more time in this game, I'm sure I'll get more context on you and your arguments, and I will understand you better. Maybe you're right about everything. I don't know. But trying to expect someone who is brand new to the game to understand your deeply researched view as though it was the gospel is A, unreasonable, because how would I understand it so quickly when you have taken decades to get there? And B, I think that it is one of the greatest pitfalls in our industry is thinking that you're certainly right, even if you are right, and even if you've done all the research in the world. It is off-putting to people when you come across as knowing it for sure, and not engaging in discussion. Which, you know, is a double-edged sword and can go both ways. But I would be happy to sit down with you and talk through your perspectives. I do not understand them well enough to say whether or not I think you're correct or incorrect.
I will say this is one thing I really like about Ian and the limited information that I know about him. He is willing to sit down with David Icke, with Joe Rogan, with Alex Jones, with Derek Bros, with Whitney Webb. He's willing to promote people like Whitney Webb who are completely outside of the mainstream dealing with information that mainstream media will absolutely not touch, will not breach at all. So I appreciate the fact that he has that characteristic where he will go on a live stream and talk to his detractors and make the time to address the criticisms. That is excellent to me, because you can really learn about somebody on whether they're going to evade you or embrace you and confront the criticisms that you have on them, and then give, seemingly logical, intelligent responses.
And most of the time when I'm chatting about you, I am telling.
He won't go on Stu Peters. Do we know that for a fact? Has he said that he will not go on Stu Peters? I bet he would. I don't know. I think that he would go on Stu Peters. I don't think he would shy away from it.
Telling jokes, because my first interaction with you was you attacking me on Twitter intensely. And
see, that's what I got a problem with on David Icke's part. He is passionate. He is knowledgeable. He's been in this game a long, long time. To make things personal and personally attack somebody instead of questioning and criticizing and condemning their ideas, even though he's willing to sit down with David Icke, he says he is, and I believe that he would. I don't think he has a pattern of shying away from that. Most people won't do that. It'd be like, they're so butthurt, they're so offended. They're like, no, I already know what you think about me. And I, to some degree, I understand that. There's some people that I won't talk to because I believe they're bad faith. There's this one guy I talked to. He invited me on his live stream. I think we weren't even 5 or 10 minutes in the conversation. The guy just attacked, man. I was like, wait, where'd this come from? Wow, you're coming up with a whole lot of accusations that absolutely aren't true. And you already know right off the bat, this guy has no desire to have a good faith conversation when I mean good faith, I mean, you're listening to what somebody says and you're willing to consider their perspective, even to the point of replacing your perspective with something that you might deem better at the time. And if you don't agree with that, then you disagree. And now you've got this free range of thoughts all out on the table, and then other people can make their decision on what they think the better argument was, the supposition that was more substantiated, something that they think was more objective. But you give the opportunity for people to look at two people who are disagreeing and come up with their own conclusions and make their own decisions. And the wise man will abandon weak arguments and adopt the stronger ones until a stronger one comes to the forefront. Isn't that what growth is? Isn't that what maturity is?
So when you start a relationship by attacking someone, what do you think you're going to get?
Yeah.
And so I chose to take
true.
the stance of playfully batting back and forth with you because it's fucking fun. And I think it's hilarious. And
which could also be negative and destructive, although there is entertainment value in it. I don't know how far we can go on creating peace and prosperity and shoving out the people who really, really hate us. I bet you anything, if you put yourself in the position of an oligarch who has all these billions, trillions of dollars and major control, you want trolls to be bickering among themselves. You want people to be calling other people COINTELPRO for, with no substantiation. You want to throw people off the scent of what's really going on. And you get some psychopathic control freaks and megalomaniacs that are so confident in their grip on all of humanity that they'll just show you what they're doing. And they know you can't do anything about it. And they know people will arrive at different conclusions. It's kind of like that. I'll talk to you in a second about what Edward Bernays says with regard to the unseen power in a second, but let's listen to some more of this.
I'd be happy to have a genuine relationship anytime and to actually discuss real information with you anytime.
That's a great attitude, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Good opinion 1, bad opinion 2.
Because I'm just having fun.
Or good outlook.
Fun out here. And genuinely, I respect you and I admire you. Even if I ultimately disagree with you, which I've not decided one way or the other. So,
see, I don't agree with that. It's like I'm just having fun. This is freaking great. I love being entertained. You know what? Our lives are on the line. The lives of our children are on the line. This is a very serious. I'm not saying you can't have any fun with this kind of stuff, but if you're just out here to have fun, to what end? To what end? It's like, no, okay, I want to have fun. I want to have a good time. I want to have entertainment, but that's not really what I'm here for. That'd be a side issue, but I really want to understand what's going on, and I really want to plant seeds of truth, and I really want to change this thing because we are going to need 40 acres to turn this ship around. That's how deep we're in.
So that's my take on David Icke. Hope that clears that up. Jordan, really appreciate your content, bro. Thanks for the hype. Just want a quick shout out to Del Bigtree, getting Dr. Robert Redfield on the Maha podcast there, and apparently dropping some red pills on him. I haven't seen it yet. I didn't get the time to watch it because we're busy. Frank McCormick. If I were Jewish, I would honestly consider leaving the country. The JQ is now mainstream, and it will only get worse. A couple things here. Why would you consider leaving the country? Like, I'm openly not promoting any violence towards Jewish people. I'm saying that Jewish people are wonderful and they have no linkage to Jeffrey Epstein. They are not responsible for Jeffrey Epstein, and they don't need to take credit for Jeffrey Epstein, and they shouldn't, because Jeffrey Epstein is his own actor running his own operation on behalf of a foreign government that is not your government. You're an American. Why the hell would you be claiming that as you? That's not you. And I clearly laid that out on the Joe Rogan podcast. And so that this is a weird argument, bro, because if the JQ means Jewish question, if discussion of the nature of Israel and the nature of Epstein and the nature of the Jewish relationship with Israel and Epstein is inherently going to be dangerous to Jewish people, then we should ask ourselves, why would that be? Because there's no other topic that I can think of that when you have free speech and open discussion, it's inherently dangerous to someone. Like, if we openly discuss Black gang violence, is that inherently dangerous to Black people? I would argue that that actually furthers the progress towards how can we help Black people rise out of poverty and deal with the gang problems and gang violence and empower Black people to live better lives, right? So why would it be different for Jewish people and the Jewish question? Why is it inherently a bad thing that we have open free speech and dialogue about the relationship of Jewish people to Israel and the Jewish identity in the world today? Like, that seems like a profoundly healthy dialogue to have. And I think that the leading cause of anti-Semitism today is all the censorship and containment of that conversation, because that leads to people speculating that all Jews are in on some conspiracy, which they're not. Right?
He could be rational. I mean, in some respect, he could be rationalizing his ignorance, Emmanuel. Truth is mercilessly harsh. I've always said, truth is extreme. To make it moderate is to lie. And I think I got that originally from Aaron from Storm Clouds Gathering. I don't know if you remember. That used to be a really, really good channel. I don't know what happened to Aaron. I don't know what happened to that channel, but truth is extreme, and to make it moderate is to lie. Truth is mercilessly harsh. If you can't deal with it, then you are not fit to know it. While the truth may be mercilessly harsh, I kind of view it like, yeah, truth might be mercilessly harsh, but the deliverers of truth don't have to be harsh. You know what I mean? It's kind of tantamount to giving your dog worm medication. If you just gave it to him as it stood, they would spit it out. They wouldn't, but you wrap it in bologna, or you wrap it in cheese, or you wrap it in peanut butter, you smother it in something that the dog likes so they can get the pill that's going to take the worms out of their system, or otherwise he's not going to eat it. So while the truth may be harsh, I don't think the messengers of truth are obligated to be as harsh as the message they're delivering. As a matter of fact, truth probably entrusts itself to somebody who can wisely deliver the message. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense? So on the one hand, I agree with you. And on the other hand, I feel like maybe there's nuance that we need to add to that.
As you can see, we're fired up today, and I'm in full fast high gear. I did not get a lot of sleep, but we are moving. That guy that made his career out of rehashing at Whitney Webb's work into TikTok videos and then goes on the largest platform in the world only to call her unhinged. I already kind of addressed this.
Yeah.
And yes, I have made my entire career out of rehashing other people's work, and I cite them directly.
Name somebody who doesn't make an entire career out of rehashing and collating and compiling and condensing somebody else's work. Because even if, whether you're talking about, you know, I'm just throwing names out there, okay? Whether you're talking about Jordan Peterson or Candace Owens or Ryan Dawson or Whitney Webb or David Icke or whoever you're talking about, they have to have original sources. So they're compiling all this source work and doing actual work, by the way, to condense it, to make it more understandable and market it out to the masses so more people can get access to it and understand it. So it's always been amazing to me. It's like, you're not the author of that. It's like, I never said I was, but you're presenting it like it is. And sometimes, you know, when you're doing a 60-second YouTube short or something like that, you don't have time to go, oh, and this is referenced by whatever, you know, like truth is extreme, to make it moderate is to lie, or, you know, the price of freedom is now and will always be eternal vigilance, and indifference to this notion is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. There are nuggets of truth and principles in there that we can all live by and benefit from. And sometimes it's not always necessary. A lot of times it's not always necessary to go, that came from Thomas Jefferson, that came from Whitney Webb. So now if you're plagiarizing something like Benny Johnson did when he was with BuzzFeed and he got caught doing 41 occurrences of plagiarism and he had to get fired and he had to apologize on Twitter years ago, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about writing an article. We're talking about using short form media, whether you're talking about YouTube or Rumble or X or whatever. You're building off of the backs of somebody else who did the work, or they were the source. So you're just repackaging somebody else's work. Oh, this guy said this in this book and he sourced it here. I'm going to go to that source and I'm going to compile it. And I'm going to make my own book. It's a rare person that you have with an original idea, with an original story. Unless you actually are the one who broke the story, then everybody sources off of you. But you want everybody to source it off of you because you want other people to benefit from the truth that you just revealed in this area where formerly it was unhidden, formerly it was hidden.
Videos. And when I'm talking about Legacy of Ashes, I cite Tim Weiner's work and I promote it. And when
I like Benny. Guys, there is no more apparent shill on the individual commentators spectrum than somebody like Benny Johnson. He is, let me know if you disagree with me, but even the way he talks, where he goes, who he hangs around, how up in Trump's arse he is, it's disgusting. And on the human perspective, it's kind of embarrassing. You can objectively easily point out that Benny is there to just be a mouthpiece for the right, specifically Team MAGA.
Citing Whitney Webb's work, I cite her and I promote her.
It really doesn't take more than 5 minutes to go, whoa, I'm clicking off this guy. Just like, it's kind of like, I think Dave Pacman is just as bad, but he's not as shill-like as Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson is one of those people, like, there are layers in my mind, okay, on if you want to talk about shills or whatever. And there are some people who are hard to determine whether they're intentionally, whether they're genuine or not. You know what I mean? There's some people that are just like, this guy could be absolutely disingenuous, but he's really good at it if that's what he's doing. I personally think he's shooting from the hip. He's shooting from the heart. He may be misguided. He may be swept up in things that he'll look at later and go, God, you know, that's a learning experience. I'm glad I walked away from that. He seems to show a pattern of that. But the Benny Johnson, this world, oh my goodness. Let me know if you agree. Yeah, Mark Dice is another one. It's like the way Mark Dice started off seemed to be really legitimate. He was actually out at the Bilderberg meetings, interviewing people, holding people accountable, and the powers that shouldn't be, holding their feet to the fire. And then all of a sudden, there is nothing seemingly that Trump could ever do to make Mark Dice offer a nanoparticle of criticism and lay it at Trump's feet. Nothing. Benny Johnson's the same way.
And I tell everyone to go buy this fucking book on bookshop.org, hopefully, or on amazon.com if that's the best you can do. However you get it, purchase it, pay for it, read it, listen to it. It'll change everything. And I would argue that my goal is to get as many book sales for Whitney Webb as possible, because this book is the crux of the whole conversation at this moment.
Dude, I just love that he keeps on holding up. He's not just talking about Whitney Webb. He's not just referencing Whitney Webb. He's holding her book. He's already held his book up, what, like 6 to 8 times?
You know, we can all do our own digs. We can all, expose the evidence open source as well, which I have also done. I'm not saying this is my only source. I'm just saying that this is the best one I found.
This is great.
And so I think it's kind of funny that you're saying that I'm grifting off of Whitney Webb when I'm promoting her book. And like, compared to the book sales I'm hopefully driving for, I would imagine I'm making far less money from the views I'm getting. Although I am obviously getting a lot of followers and attention from Joe Rogan episode. That is just the nature of Joe Rogan.
So, okay, it's 2 hours into this live stream. Let me know if you want me to do like a part 2 or whatever. I really appreciate you guys being here. Do me a favor, okay? Kara says Luke Radowski knows better, but he sold out. Homeboy even confronted Kissinger back in the day. That's another thing. Like, there's so many things that we haven't talked about that relate to my questioning of Ian Carroll. Let me just wrap it up by saying this. In my opinion, and I could be totally wrong on this, in my opinion, Ian Carroll seems to be a dude that is seeking for truth like the rest of us. I completely agree. And it just drives me crazy that he can be so spot on about Epstein and his links and ties to the Mossad and Israel. And yet at the same time, back a guy who called Epstein a terrific guy. He's known him for 15 years. He likes his women on the young side and all that stuff. It baffles my mind that he would continue to back a guy who is so blatantly anti-American. Donald Trump is as anti-American, in my opinion, than Joe Biden. Now, I understand why people would go for a Donald Trump, because he seems like he's so out of the box and he's so, he doesn't care about decorum to some extent or another, but he's still in the back pocket of BlackRock. We just saw during the State of the Union address, and people are like, you're just going back in his history. Give him a break. Okay, let's go back to the State of the Union address. He said a company has worked with this administration to buy the Panama Canal, but he didn't mention that the company is Larry Fink's BlackRock. That doesn't cause red flags, just kind of buzzers to go off all over the place. And this guy is promoting it. Alex Jones is promoting it. Even what's so funny about his banter back and forth with Jeremy Boring from Daily Wire is that the Daily Wire is decidedly pro-Trump. Trump can't do anything wrong. He's, they'll give mild criticisms, but they're still full bore for him because he's a Zio puppet. This guy's for the Zio puppet. Jeremy Boring, who he claims to be against, is a Zio puppet. That makes me think, what the frick is going on here? And you don't have to go, oh, Ian Carroll's a clown. Alex Jones is a psychopath. You don't even have to go there. Just say, hey, you said this. You condemn the DNC. You condemn the Democrats and Obama and Harris and Biden for the exact same things that Donald Trump is involved in. Red flag gun confiscation laws, increasing the national debt exponentially, giving bonuses to the military industrial complex and defense contractors, selling out to Israel. Donald Trump does the exact same thing. There ain't no difference on those levels right there. And there are more things that they have in common. So when I see this stuff, I really question. I don't think it's beneficial to start launching ad hominems, because I think we should keep the conversation open. I think you can share videos like this with Ian Carroll, and maybe he'll sit down with me and have an interview like he's going to sit down with Derek Bros. So maybe I'll ask questions that Derek Bros didn't think about and vice versa or whatever. But this guy has to come to grips with the fact that he appears to be, and I don't know if he's being genuine and just genuinely mistaken, but he appears to be engaging in some extreme, convenient hypocrisy in condemning the Israeli Mossad trafficking connection on this side and endorsing the Zio puppet, Miriam Adelson owned a White House CEO representative with the funny hair on this side. Because remember, we are in a Title 28, Section 3002, 15A federal corporation. The United States means federal corporation. This is a federal entity run by two major political parties, the DNC and the RNC, which are both corporations. So the corporate elitists put their guy on the top and make them banter back and forth. So basically, the corporation owns Team Red and Team Blue. And then the people who own the corporations at the top, the central banking cartel, own both owners and the CEOs of both corporations. So it doesn't matter who got in there. So talking about election fraud and all this kind of stuff is completely irrelevant because, like Joseph Stalin reportedly said, doesn't matter who the people vote for. Every vote is a vote for us. So that's what I got a problem with. If you think it'd be a good idea to interview Ian Carroll and ask all these questions that seem quite obvious, the answers seem quite obvious, let me know. As far as the positive side, I love the fact that he's promoting Whitney Webb and Whitney Webb's work. I love the fact that he is not afraid to address criticisms immediately after a popular podcast like the one on Joe Rogan. I think that's good. I think that's a new thing. I think it's good to have this dialogue, and I think it's good to have these live streams, and the fact that we have the internet to be able to do this, and all you guys are in the room participating in this, I think it's a good thing. If you want to see more of it, put a 1 in the room. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. It's High Impact Flicks Official on Rumble, High Impact Flicks on Twitter or X, and The Disturbing Illusion, and Here's the Deal on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. If you want to support the channel further, those links are in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you think this video sucked, I want to know about that too, because I want to be a better communicator. I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I want to make America and the world peaceful and prosperous for all of us. I'll see you in the next video.